What's up, y'all? Sales Bro Pod, episode 3. Today we got Mr. Closed and Paid, or Closed and Fucking Paid, Richard here. Richard, thank you for coming on. I know we're in completely different time zones right now, literally opposite sides of the world. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, brother. I know it's fucking early as hell over there, but it's like 7 p.m. my time here, so.
Yeah, I'm sure you've been ripping calls all day, or what?
No, bro, I'm in India, right? So I'm 12 hours ahead of you guys, maybe more. And my day starts at around 7:30 and goes to like 2 a.m.
Ooh.
And through the day, I'm like doing acting workshops and stuff like that. I don't know if people know this about me, by the way. It's like everyone sees me on Twitter, Close and Pay, but they don't realize like I'm semi a full-time actor.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you, the profile picture, is that you?
Yeah, it's like an AI version, I guess.
Okay, because I was like, this. It almost looks like one of those profile pictures that these people just like put on their profile because it looks cool. But I was like, then I was kind of, I don't know, comparing. I was like, that looks like him. Like, is that him? So yeah, you look like an actor for sure. But this one we kind of are running on a time crunch. It's gonna be super value packed for new people, existing people. But I guess the best spot for us to start so that people can really understand who Richard is like a little bit of your background, man. Like, when did this sales stuff really start for you? How soon did it turn into what it is? And we'll go from there.
Yeah, like I don't want to make it really long because I could go on, but
right.
Since like 2011, 2012, I ran my own fitness agency for like 10 years more. And within that, I train people online and I train celebrities and stuff in India. And so I was just selling all the time. And that kind of just gives you your own, experience of closing to a certain degree, And I was selling packages to work with me one-to-one. It's like 10K a month type thing.
Wow.
And this gave me the experience, like, to just do it for other companies. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've got the experience. And yeah, I just jumped into doing it on Closify. And like, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I was on Closify too to start. I'm curious, what are your ties to India? Like, you don't take me as somebody who would be from India. So what are you doing over there?
Right. This is a long story again, but I got known in the UK from doing my fitness shit, right? I used to write blogs and just rip into people, and then people picked it up, and essentially some like semi-famous people in the bodybuilding world found out about me and said to me like, hey, come and work for us. And at the same time, do you want to go to India and do you want to train this celebrity out in India? And I was like, fuck no, I don't want to do that. And then they were like, no, Rich, come on, it's 3 months. We're going to pay you like this amount. I was like, oh, okay, let's do it, And then after being there 2 weeks, bro, like I fucking loved the place. And I was like, I'm just staying here, But bearing in mind, before that at uni, I did film and TV. So when I got to India, I was training celebrities, but I was in the film world the whole time. So I was like, everyone was saying to me, why don't you start auditioning? Why don't you start looking into this stuff? So I was like, hey, do you know what? I'll do it. And I just started auditioning like all the time. I was there 7 years auditioning all the time.
Nice. So are you from the UK originally?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, shoot, man. I feel like most of the guys that get into sales, they have some of that like entrepreneurial spirit. Like they want to make money fast. I feel like you probably have that in you, but you also came in from a angle different from a lot of people. It's like you're doing this whole acting route. I'd assume you're good at it if you've been doing it for so long.
Bro, and I'm here. I'm sorry to butt in. I'm doing like a fucking massive film in India right now. It's like a lead role, and the lead role is in purely Hindi. So like, it's a fucking massive film I'm filming right now. I've got to do singing, I've got to do dancing and all this shit. But coming back to your point, honestly, the best thing about my experience, yes, I've done sales for a long time, but honestly, the acting makes sales piss easy. Like, if you can stand in front of a massive camera on set, hundreds of people behind the camera staring at your ass, lights there, and then the director's going action, and you have to speak in another language, bro, if you can do that, like a sales calls is so easy.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, you speak the language fluently? Nice.
You would think so if you heard me. Like I can memorize
Yeah.
scripts, and you'd be like, "Oh, Rich knows the language," but it's like I'm just good at remembering it. You know?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I could really see how those skills translate uh, from one another. I do have list of topics here. Some really juicy stuff. Is there any particular order that you wanted to tackle this stuff, or just kind of rip through it?
Well, I was thinking, like, let's just go through how I set up a call, because I feel like so many people get value from the foundations and what I put in place. And I think automatically it will go into some of the stuff I sent you, right?
Yeah.
Um, I just want to mention, like, bow-tied sales guy. Like, I remember when I first started following him, and I'm sure people follow him who were listening. I remember thinking, like, fuck, this guy's like speaking how I do my sales calls. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like straight to the point, frame type stuff, like pushing away, like being in control of calls. And a lot of my stuff I've set up around that type of framework. You know, I don't really do any of this rapport shit, unless there's honestly something that I feel that I really need to say from listening to a call beforehand. But honestly, the way I start literally every single call is the same, is always the same. And I'm guessing people here, if they're listening and they're closers, not always you'll have a setter call. But in our company, there's always a setter call beforehand. And I'll always listen to it. And I'm just listening out to one pain point in particular. And I'm literally going to bring that up the first second I speak to this guy. I had it last week. And the guy said on the call, we've just worked with a PR company and we fired them after a month, right? He didn't go into it. So the first thing the guy was called Richard as well. So as soon as it started, I was like, hi, Richard, listen, my colleague literally just told me you'd fired another PR company. What happened? And he didn't even think about it. But he's just going straight into the pain points. And now he's just going to have it on his mind at what was, pissing him off about this.
I can see how that'd be so effective. So you don't do the whole structured, okay, thanks for showing up. This is how the call is going to go. I'm going to ask you this, and we're going to talk about this. You don't do any of that.
No, I do. But listen, I will never fucking tell someone, thank you for being here. Like this kind of little subtleties, like I'm never going to say, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming. Like, fuck that. I'm starting with a pain point, and if there isn't one, because sometimes the set of calls like 10 minutes, there's not really much there. I'll just go, hey John, how's it going? Blah, blah. By the way, can we get straight into things? Like I've got another call in 45 minutes, and I've got a bunch of questions I want to ask you. Is that cool?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone will be cool with it, and they'll say yes. And this next sentence is something that everyone can pretty much take. And do you know what? I put it on Twitter. And I saw lots of it. I'm not saying I invented it. Like you can never invent something in closing, But I saw it get passed around and put in other people's closing groups and stuff, which is cool. But the way I say this as well, I'm trying to teach my closing team how to say this so it doesn't sound fucking salesy. Mm-hmm. It's all about tonality. It's all about pace. My good friend Dylan, the SDR whisperer, he speaks about this for his SDRs. Mm-hmm. And I'll say, cool, John. So look, the way I start these calls, and honestly, I'm curious to hear in your own words, like, what are you hoping to get from this call? And see how I just went really slow?
Tonality right there was really big difference maker. Because some of these people, if you do that in the wrong way, you're like, hey, I'm going to ask you this question, and then if there's a good fit, we're going to talk about, what we do. It does sound really salesy, and to, a more sophisticated buyer, they're immediately like, this guy's trying to frame me. He's trying to like push me around here. So yeah, that's actually really good. Dude, I'm excited to get into more of this because I know your Twitter is like a little peek into your sales process, and it's like very, very unique compared to what a lot of these other guys are doing. So I'm super excited to dive into the rest of this.
I think people, sorry to butt in, bro. I think there's a bit of a lag here. if you watch my Twitter or you read my tweets, I get the impression a lot of people think I'm just this really brash, upfront guy. All that shit wouldn't work. Like, honestly, I couldn't give a fuck. But if you heard my calls, you'd realize I'm so empathetic. I'm so like tonality, different pace. And the prospect never ever thinks I'm a dick, because I'm not afraid to say anything, but the way I will say things, you will always have to answer me because I've said it in such a nice way. If it's a negative, I'll follow it by a positive. So
that's something that doesn't translate on Twitter. And so that is super good to know. A lot of the people watching this are going to be like, oh, that's how he does it. That's how he gets away with it. Cool.
I'm just making noise, to be honest. But honestly, that's the first question. And I get all my closers to do it, And the biggest thing is lots of them, they're practicing it. And they'll say it in just a very monotonic, salesy type of way. And I'm like, no, you have to every time say, hey, John, so listen, I'm actually really curious here. And I always start the calls like this, but like, what are you hoping to get from this call in particular? And I'll change it up every time. And it comes across like a conversation, and the answer, this, guys, is where you're going to get the answer. And they're always, always, always going to fucking tell you the details, right? It doesn't mean they're going to give you exactly what you need, but they're going to give you what you need to dive into. And so you'll ask someone and they'll say, hey, do you know what? And all you're looking for is something concise. You're looking for them to say, do you know what? I just want to see the packages and the pricing, to be honest. And you're like, cool. Thanks for being so concise. Sometimes a prospect will literally not answer you and they'll go off on one and start talking about the life story, right? Mm. And one of the things I'm trying to get like all my closers to do is don't fucking accept an answer that does not answer your question. Right?
Yeah.
So when they go off on one, you let them finish and you say, hey, John, sorry, I got a bit confused. I feel like you went off on it a bit one. Do you mind telling me in one short sentence, like what are you hoping to get from the call?
Cool. So just for context here, you are closing and you're also a sales manager, correct?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Cool. So moving into the next thing here, the yes and no, or the yes or no statement. I see you definitely have an opinion on the best way to navigate this. So I'm curious to hear your methodology.
Let's fucking do it, man. Like the thing is, right? I've done sales at all different price ranges. If I'm speaking to someone and I'm selling something for like 55K to 150K, you're always wanting to go and weigh and think about it. Every prospect wants to think about it. If you look at my last 20 closes, I guarantee you 19 of them want to go away and think, right? And so the key is making sure they understand by the end, I'm looking for a decision. By all means, it can be a no. If you're thinking about it, I'm going to get money out of you. Now, the way I do it is take the answer to their, when you said, what do you want to get from the call? What are you hoping to get? They'll tell you. Then I'll say, perfect, John. So let me just go back to the start a little. I want to give you a bit of an understanding how these calls go for me. Okay. So by now, I'm hoping, you understand our company, what we do and what we offer. Is that, am I about right there? And they'll say, yeah. Cool. So honestly, the calls for me are really, really simple. Like, I just want to ask you a few questions, essentially to figure out of the products and the packages we offer, what would make the most sense. I'll present that to you on my screen. And honestly, John, by the end of the call, I'm just looking for a yes or a no. Is that fine with you? And you leave it like that. And now, again, it's not salesy, is that? They literally think, oh, how nice of him to explain the structure of the call. And it's not salesy. And they go, yes, that's fine. Now, people are scared of doing this. And the reason is, if you don't say it right, you sound like a fucking idiot and it sounds salesy and forced.
Yeah. No, the way you're saying this right now, like, so for anyone listening, this is our first time actually meeting face to face. We've talked on Twitter and stuff like that, but the way you're saying this right now, it makes everything I've seen you tweet and do all that, like it makes a lot more sense. And I can see how it'd be working so effectively for you. So now I know for context, more context, are you selling to like higher level, I guess, quote unquote B2C? Like you're selling to individuals, right? Like not typically businesses.
No.
Both.
Yeah,
So
B2B, B2C, yeah.
so even if you get onto a call, obviously when they reach you, they've had a couple of calls, and they're like, I need to think about it. Like truly, our marketing head, and I got to run it by the supervisor and the CMO or whatever. How do you navigate that versus just like the influencer who wants a big package? How do you navigate that? I need to think about it.
Good question, bro. Like, honestly, they have their chance to tell me at the start of the call if they need any more decision makers. Number one, my setter has told them, bring all decision makers to the call. So they already know. They've received a PDF that tells them to bring all decision makers to the call. When I say to them, by the end of the call, John, I'm just looking for yes or no, is that fine with you? Now they have the chance, if it is true, that they need someone else to make a decision, right? Now, if they don't say, oh, Rich, sorry, I can't do that because I actually need John from accounting to help me with this decision. If they bring that up, I'll literally address it and say, hey, bring John on right now. Or, hey, let's reschedule because I'm not wasting my time. But if they don't fucking tell me that, guys, I know it's a lie when I get to the end of the call because I'll be like, John, wait a minute. I'm really confused. I told you I'm looking for a yes or a no. And at that point, you mentioned nothing about John from accounting, So essentially you fucked up anyway.
Yeah. I know this is kind of elementary, but I think it would serve a lot of the people listening. So when you say, hey, by the end of the call, I'm looking for a yes or no, and they're like, I actually need to run this by David, but he's not here right now. Can we just keep going on with the call? How are you responding to them?
Okay, I'd say, well, do you know what, John? Normally I wouldn't do that, but let's do this. Let's make an agreement. If by the end of the call you 100% believe we can help you and we are the company for you, what we can do is a refundable deposit. I'll send you a contract and we'll book in a second call. How does that sound?
So they're expecting it.
I'm making them. They have to make a decision. Do you know what I mean? And I'm going to get money down. And if they say no to that, then honestly, I'm not wasting my time.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, that's awesome. That's like, this episode is going to be awesome. I'm super excited. So man, leading into that next point, the doctor frame. Go off. I'll give you the floor. I'll give you the floor. Go ahead. That's all I'll say.
Bro, the reason I hate on it so much is like because I've in the past 6 months, 7 months, whatever, I've like hired maybe honestly 12, 13, 14 closers. And I've tried everything. I've tried experienced guys, I've tried young guns who have just got the fire in the belly, like everyone you can think of. And all of the people who come in with this, because I'll ask them in the interview, what's your what's your technique? What do you feel like you do naturally? Nearly everyone, bro, says, oh, I like the doctor framework. And immediately I'm like, ain't gonna work, man. Like, is a doctor looking for a fucking no? No. When you go and see a doctor, he don't give a fuck if he's making a sale or not. He's literally asked 2 questions and then he'll give you a medicine. If you don't take it, he don't care.
Yeah.
If I'm selling something for 150K, they have to fucking respect the hell out of me. And they're going to respect the hell out of me because I'm going to say, John, are you telling me you want this solution because it's going to give you credibility? And they go, yeah. And I go, okay, John, you do realize there's way more cost-effective methods of getting credibility than this. This is a very bad decision if that's the only thing you're looking at. A doctor is not going to say that.
Right.
And I'm doing that throughout a call,
Just pushing them away.
Yeah, and that sounds simple, right? Everyone talks about pushing away. But if you say to someone, I'm looking for a yes or a no, it does not work unless you are searching for the no throughout the call.
Okay. This brings up it brings up a good point. You said you've had 12, 13, 14 closers. They love the doctor frame. And when you hear that, you're like, oh boy, here we go. when you are bringing on a new closer, like what is the perfect response to like what kind of sales process do you follow for you? Like, what are you looking for out of somebody?
Oh, bro, I'm just looking for extreme confidence. Like, I'm just looking for someone. I don't have a technique, but no one will get past me if they're available to be closed. Like, that, the way I see my sales is everyone I'm speaking to, if you've got money, there's no chance you're getting off this call without paying.
Yeah.
And when I interviewed for this position, I was like, I don't like interviews. Let me just tell you that. But one thing I want you guys to know is I've done this for many fucking years. I'm very good at what I do. And for you to understand that, all you can do is give me the job and I'll show you. You know, and they gave me the job and I showed them.
Yeah.
Now
Confidence.
you don't hear that much on an interview, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So I got also here your beef with Alex Ramosi. Not necessarily with Alex Ramosi, but one of the things that he does say that I think is most people are going to know the whole you don't need time, you need information, and I'm the only source of info. What's your take on that whole spiel right there?
Bro, it's fucking so like I think everyone understands or like objections, handle them as early as fucking possible, right? So for instance, you don't need time, you need information. Okay. One of the first things I'll ask on the call after I've done the whole yes or no thing, I'll go, John, again, maybe I'll say I'm curious. I'll go, John, I'm curious. Like, are you sure? Have you already decided now is the right time to do this? Like, why now? Why not 6 months ago? And they'll go, oh, yeah, I was thinking about it, and now's the right time. Right? So now you can't tell me at the end of the call, I need time. Because you fucking told me in the call, now's the right time to do it. And I'll bring it up. I would say, I'm confused, John. You literally told me now's the right time. And at the end of the call, you want to go away and you don't think now's the right time, you know? And so the way I see these objections is, if I'm waiting till the end of the call to pitch, and then for them to come back with a lie and a bullshit answer, I have monumentally fucked up the call. You know, like Bowtied sales guy talks about holding frame, right? When you pitch, you lose frame automatically because the ball is in their court, you know? So
Yep.
I am not going to pitch until I am fucking so, like 100% on, like confident that this is for them. So like if Alex pitches to someone and they say, well, do you know what, I need time to think and whatever, and I said to a high level client, well, you don't need time, you need information, and I'm the CEO here, so talk to me. Like, fuck no.
Yeah.
Fucking no way.
Yeah. I think that would work for a less sophisticated B2C buyer probably, but yeah, and this is a good point to bring up too. I mean, the best way to handle objections is to handle them before they're like while they're obstacles, right? Like before the pitch. How many, if you had to give a percentage of the times where you work through your pitch, you basically pop the question like, all right, man, what do you think? Are you ready to go? And they don't have any objections because you had previously, handled all of them before they had the chance to surface. Like, how often do you find yourself setting yourself up like perfectly so that there are no objections, literally?
Bro, I try and do that every call. And the thing is, with high level prospects, when they're speaking to me, is they just naturally feel like they have to object to something at the end of the call. And I know it's complete horseshit when I finish because they're literally asking me a bullshit question.
Mm-hmm.
There was a piece of training I did for the team like a few weeks ago. It was this really, really high level guy, like multimillionaire's got a Lamborghini and all this stuff. And honestly, I sold him completely. And he got to the end and he wanted like time to process it. And I was just staying silent, right? And for him to stop being silent and all these voices in his head, he just asked me bullshit questions. Now, most closers would have answered them and tried to explain away. And I just kept saying, wait, what do you mean? That doesn't even make sense. and like it just put him back on the spot. And the guy was like, ended up laughing and saying, "Hey, like you're fucking unbelievable at this," just giving me props for it, you know. Another example, I think you might be speaking to Ryan Durkin,
Yeah.
another time, and like he's one of our closers, and he was listening to one of my calls last week. I was speaking to 4 whales, bro, in the car, and they had no idea who I was or the company, so it's a fucking hard call. But I just assumed I did my shit and I assumed the sale. I didn't even ask them, what do you think? I was like, I literally said, and I'm sending you the invoice right now. Let me know when it's paid and I'm going to book you on the interview. And they just like followed what I was saying. And Ryan was like, bro, I should be doing this. Like, just assume the fucking sale. Like, it's the best way.
Yeah. Dude, I imagine, because I've known Ryan since I like popped on Twitter. We were both at like less than 100 followers. Like we were babies. And I assume him working with you, he's like getting a fucking masterclass on how this shit goes.
It's improved a lot.
Yeah. Awesome. So another point we had to talk about here was using language that is super like, oh, like, thank you so much, I appreciate you for showing up, like you're better than me, my time isn't value, or like it's not valuable. Like what's your take on using that type of language with a prospect on a call?
The thing is, though, everyone thinks this is really minute details, like it doesn't matter, but it fucking does matter when you speak into a high-level individual. And they won't think about it consciously, but subconsciously, if you appear lower status than them, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Some of our closers will say stuff like, and I'm trying to drum it out of them because it's a bad kind of habit, but they'll say like, oh, and I'm hoping by the end of the call we can figure something out where we can work together and we can represent you. Fuck no. I'm not hoping shit. You will hope by the end of the call that I think this will be a good fit,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So, dude, I have to ask, like, if you went to 18-year-old high ticket closer, like traditional, I just started sales type guy, and he took everything that you were saying and just tried to implement it day one, like he'd look like a fucking idiot, right? So how do you think it is that you can do what you do like so effectively without brushing people the wrong way, and ultimately like driving people to a decision, like getting results with it? Like what is it about you, and why can you do this so effectively?
Well, firstly, it feels natural to me. It doesn't feel like I'm trying to do sales. Do you know what I mean? I'm not thinking of any tactics. And to put it bluntly, Dylan, I've never bought a sales book. I've never bought a course. I've never learned anything. And so what I'm doing just feels natural to me. The second thing is, honestly, the acting and the auditioning puts me in a place where if you can do that and do all these different scripts in another language and be a different character and look like an idiot, on a sales call, speaking to one person, it's fucking so easy,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you have to figure out what is natural to you. Like I'm trying to tell our closers, like if I'm closing, past few weeks, 40, 45%,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get the other closers to do what I do because I know it's the most efficient. But you have to do it in your own way, and it's the
Right.
hardest thing to apply something when it's not natural.
Right. And obviously some of this stuff, man, is like it's going to work awesome for you, and it's most of what you're saying like would work if executed correctly, but everybody has a different selling style. Like you see it within your own team, and other teams, and they all work if done correctly, right? So I wanted to ask you, and you just alluded to it, but you've never bought sales training. Like, where have you learned? Is it just like trial by fire, like over the years? That's how you learn all this, or what'd you do?
Honestly, like Jeremy Miner, fuck you. All the other guys, fuck you. No, I'm joking. Like I just have a joke with some of the closers on our team. Like, some of them will be like, "Hey, have you seen this little tactic from Jeremy Miner?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Fuck this guy." Like, if he did that, what he's saying on our offer, I'm telling you, it would not fucking work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want to sell this high level products and the person is speaking to you for the second time on your company, they have to know you're looking for a fucking decision. Jeremy Miner did this content about, oh, the yes or no is not fucking a good thing to do. Like, all right, if you want to be a pussy, then yeah, try it. I've seen many closers try not do the yes or no, and 100% of the leads will wriggle out. So you either listen to me or you fucking fail.
Yeah. So who, like, if you had a new closer, or not even that, let's say you had like a kid in your DMs and he's like, I want to learn sales. Who do I watch? What do I read? And you had to recommend them somebody, like, who would you send them off to go study besides yourself?
Both side sales guy.
Cool. And I know he does have a course as well. But his Twitter stuff, dude, it's so like short, simple. He was one of the first follows that I made on Twitter, and like definitely influenced the way that I do things. Anybody else? Anybody that's more like B2C that you would follow or like recommend?
To be honest, I'm not spoken to Grant much, but from some of the pieces I've seen of Grant, I feel like he's semi a bit like me. I feel like he's got a bit of a personality where he could say lots of shit and get away with it. Do you know what I mean? I feel like everyone gets that from Grant's content, especially his videos. You get his personality. With my Twitter stuff, you only see text, so you just think, "Oh, this guy is a fucking dick," you know. And I'm fine for people to think that. Honestly, I don't care. But as soon as you have a conversation with me, then you'll be like, okay, well, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, Grant's really good. Both Side Salesman's really good.
Cool.
I just think learning this stuff is so. People buy like Both Side Sales Guy's course, and it's just not natural to them. And it's like you have to learn it over a long time. It's hard.
Yeah. I think if you go from like day one, I want to start sales, to day two, Both Side Sales Guy course, you're going to be like, holy shit, like this is a lot. But
yeah,
it's kind of like when you're working out. I was talking about this, I think yesterday. It's like, yeah, dude, you got to bulk up and then you got to cut, right? Like if you just go slow and steady, lean bulk, it's going to take 5 times as long. So just like mass consume, bro, test it. That's the important part. Test it. And then pull back. But yeah, dude, both of those guys, both side sales guy, and then Grant. Like I know a lot of people who have worked with Grant as coach. If anybody's listening, Retirement Keys, I think on socials, check that guy out. But I want to ask you, what is something that you are working on within your own sales process, like right now? Like where are you improving?
But the thing is, with what I'm doing, I'm just continually improving the sales process for the whole team rather than just me individually. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm all the time I'm changing the script a bit. Like I test stuff out all the time on a script. I'll find stuff that works and then I'll put it in the script and tell the rest of the closers. If I'm looking at what I'm trying to do personally, I'm just trying to close as fucking many people as possible, but that's not really changing, I've gone from at the start, when I first started, there was no real closer manager. There was no one telling me, here's a script, here's what to do. And so I had to go through this whole stage of figuring it all out myself, creating stuff, and then telling the team. Mm-hmm. But right now, I think I'm closing 40, 45%, sometimes 50% of high-profile leads. So it's going well.
Yeah. I mean, the leads that you're closing down are definitely, it's not like buy this 4K drop shipping course. Like this is a more sophisticated sale. So it's super impressive. What's harder for you, closing or managing?
Yeah, managing, bro.
Is this your first time?
Yeah. There's a lot of work, man. But I enjoy it. Like it's just there's a lot, and like people require your time, Yeah. Whereas the closing, honestly, like I've got a call in 12 minutes, and I can jump into a sales call and just know hardly much, and it's cool. It's like it's fun.
Yeah. So I was talking to this guy, I don't know if you know Leo. He's a younger dude. He's on actually episode 2. We recorded it yesterday. Um, we were talking about in terms of like detaching yourself from the sale, which I think is something that you probably practice, being that you study the whole bow tie sales guy philosophy. He was mentioning it, and we were talking about how if you have, let's say, money in the bank and you're sitting comfy, it's so much easier to detach yourself from the sale. But if you're like, dude, rent due next week and I need money, so I guess diving into the topic of like being able to detach yourself from the sale, how do you do that? How do you do it effectively?
Because deep down, I don't give a fuck if you buy or not, and I never have.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you can teach that, how you can learn that. But from day one, okay, maybe the first week, I tried to push people into a sale who shouldn't be a sale, but I honestly couldn't. I couldn't give a fuck. There was a guy I was speaking to last week. He was like a billionaire. He was like 3.5 billionaire, and I honestly couldn't give one fuck, bro. Like
Yeah.
this is not for you, right? You know.
So how do you
But yeah, detached sale is fucking hard.
yeah, so when you because doing it in the nature that you do, and I do know other people that really like they push for the no, that they're detached. Sometimes your numbers like will dip because of that. That's what I've seen. Um, have you had that same experience or
In
no?
what way? Your percentage closing?
Yeah, yeah. Like sometimes, like you'll go. I mean, sales you'll always have highs and lows, like hot streaks, dry streaks. But I know others where they'll stop making offers, or just like maybe over the course of 1 month, their numbers are lower because of the way that they're doing it. But ultimately, they have the trust from the sales manager that they're doing what they should be doing. I was just curious if you had experienced anything like that, like with your selling style.
No.
Hmm. Okay,
That's
maybe a
the thing.
unique
Like
case.
I had this discussion with Ryan actually. Um, the way I do things, the way my technique is, I don't change my way of being for anyone, and I believe it's the most optimal for catching as many fish as possible. It's a wide net. Now, yes, I do speak to a few people, mostly like powerful men who have a lot of money. Sometimes they just don't like the fact that maybe I'm in control, right? And I
Yeah.
just accept it. I don't care. But for the way I do things, I don't get dips in weeks. Do you know what I mean? Like, honestly, it's
Hmm.
always the same, not improving over time. So I don't have these bad weeks or so. If you keep giving me good, quote unquote, good leads, I'm always going to perform.
Hmm.
And so I feel like if you work towards being able to do this in a natural way, I can't see why I would have a bad week. Why the fuck would I have a bad week? Why is that going to happen? When people
Yeah.
accept it. They're like, oh, you have bad streaks. Fucking why?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I guess for got about I don't want to end this right on your call starting time, so we'll try to wrap it up in 5 minutes. But uh young closer, man, I'm sure you get a lot of them in your DMs, a young sales guy. Really quick, your most effective advice, like someone says, Richard, please help me. I want to sell so bad. How do I get good? Like what are a few things you're gonna tell these guys?
Um, okay, number one, join Closify. I joined Closify and it was a blessing if people know what it is. Um, Number two, I'm actually going to, me and Ryan Durkin, who you're speaking to soon, are probably going to be releasing a semi course with a Discord group. It's not going to be expensive, but we're just going to teach our shit in there and our techniques. Um, and also, like, do DM me if you want help. Like, the thing is, at our company is we're never going to take on a closer direct to closer again because it's gone so bad. But we're absolutely happy to take on killers who are willing to be a setter for a month, learn the
Mhm.
ropes, learn the product, and then become a closer. So
Yeah.
if you're happy to do that, for sure, DM me and I'll put you in touch when we need someone.
For sure. So as far as something you would go, and I don't know if sales was always easy for you, but rewind, like I think you said 10, 11 years or whenever you started sales. What is something that you wish you knew then that you know now?
Fuck knows, bro. Fuck knows. I tell you what, I fucking should have known. I should have known that I should have been doing this, like doing sales for a third party and not myself as a fitness agency, because I was closing for myself and then having to deliver for like loads of people. I wish I'd found closing at 18, bro. I would be 100% a multi-millionaire by now.
Interesting.
I
So
found it late.
yeah, dude, a lot of these people, like that is the goal, to be the owner. And you know, obviously you get to the point where you would hire a team. I think you were selling this off of like your personality though, right? So they're expecting to work with you. Yeah. This is a good question. Like what's next for you besides the project with Ryan and just continuing to close everybody that hops on a call with you? Like what are your plans for the next year or 5 years?
Probably to just extend my acting career. Like I'll just always close, right? But like when this film comes out, probably at the end of this year, it's going to be fucking massive in India. I'm probably going to be massively famous in India, and then I'll probably get way more job offers to do more acting. And I love acting; like it's so cool. And the greatest thing is, I literally can be doing workshops and acting through the day in India, and I can do my sales calls with the US people in the evening. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it's cool.
That's awesome. I think that's super cool that like you're doing sales at such a high level, but I'm not gonna say it's not a priority, which obviously it is a priority, but like you have something that is, you know, like your main focus outside of that, which is a huge testament to like sales in general, man. Like if you structure your day how you want, like you can really make this what you want. Now, not all opportunities, you know, are going to let you do that, but if you find a good one, they will. Last thing before we plug, you know, your socials and all that, besides Closify, like obviously you've kind of, I'd assume you've bounced around on different offers, probably found some stuff you liked, you didn't like. What is like your go-to way of finding people to sell for outside of Closify?
I don't have a way. Just Closify. That's all I've ever used. I honestly did about 2 different offers before the one I found, and they were just garbage. The thing is though, bro, I'll be honest, I get job offers all the time right now on sales calls.
Yeah.
Because every time I speak to a high level sales guy and I sell to them, they always say, you should work for me, you know? Mm-hmm. And I love my job. I'd never leave. Like I've got big loyalty, but I get job offers all the time. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you, yeah, this brings up a good point. Real, like last question. And I feel like somebody on Twitter said, it may have been you, but I'm not so sure. Like when somebody says like, you're a good salesperson on a call, or like, they're like, oh, you're so good at this. Like I saw a take where somebody's saying like, dude, you're fucking up if they're saying that. What's your whole, maybe it wasn't you then. But like if somebody is on the call saying that, like, are you like, oh dude, like, you know, thank you, or how do you direct that?
I always ask another question, bro. Like because I won't be saying thank you and fucking blushing. I'll just say, oh really? What makes you say that? Like you have to explain it to me exactly why. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, why would you give me a job? Why do you think I'm good? You know, and then they have to explain themselves, and you know.
And then once they fluff you up a little bit more, they don't even get a thank you. You're just like, oh, okay, now pay me.
No, I'll just say something like, well, let me think about it. You know, something like that. Yeah, cool. You got to be careful with what you answer.
Yeah, especially before you get the sale. All right, man.
Yeah, the rapport building can come after the sale. Like, I'm not your friend. Like, okay, like the way you and me are speaking, like that's how my sales calls are going. I'm having a good conversation with people, but I'm fucking focused and there's direction and they realize it and they know there's a decision to be made.
Yeah.
But after we've closed and I've got the payment and we're working together, I'll become your best mate. You know, we'll talk all the time. So
Mm-hmm. Well, shoot, dude. This has been a super value packed episode. I think a lot of people are going to take a lot from this, including myself. Where can the people find you? I know you're on Twitter. Where else are you? And we'll link it below in the description.
same. My Twitter handle is the same as my Instagram, same as my TikTok. Closed and paid across it all. So
Cool.
I think people will enjoy my Instagram and TikTok content because it's like you might get my personality a bit more rather than Twitter, and you'll see me speaking about shit. So yeah,
cool. All right, man. Appreciate you
cool, man.
hopping on. Good luck on your call, and let's stay in touch.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on, brother.
Take care.
Bye bye.